I knew Kansas City's defense better than they knew themselves. I knew their body movements, the way their linebackers moved, the way their safeties moved. Tyrann Mathieu, Nick Sorensen, Shavarius Ward. I knew everything they were doing. I got out there on the field. I looked up as I was walking the line of scrimmage, and said, okay, they're blitzing. And then I was dealing with it right away. I walked up, I said, okay, they're gonna bail to cover 2. Ball snap, cover 2. And I knew I had the answers to the test. That's where I was great. That's where my magic superpower was. It wasn't how fast I could run. It was how fast I could diagnose what they were doing. What's the special quality? What's the internet speed of me as a quarterback? Fast as shit. I was Starlink before Starlink. You know, now other guys, if it's a slow processing speed, well, he's gonna get you. And the reality is I could figure out what they were doing before they did it, because that's how I learned to play the game. And that's how I believe most quarterbacks should play the game. Unfortunately, as we've talked about, most quarterbacks aren't playing the game like that anymore. They're fast when they get out of the pocket, when they have to make decisions, but I didn't snap the ball unless I knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I always talk to young players, and sometimes you get your opportunity, you don't know when you're going to get it. So you always have to be ready for it. And sometimes you think, well, when am I going to get it? You're going to get it at some point. So work your ass off like you're going to play every week. You know, even if it's you're third on the depth chart, have something that you're trying to accomplish every week with a real purpose. You can still be a leader. You can still have a great work ethic. You can still study hard and prepare as if you're going to play. You may not be out there, but all that work leading up to is going to set the stage for when you do get your chance.
I don't think there is much development at this point. There's a lack of development. There's a lack of development at the pro level. In some ways, there's a lack of development. In some ways, they're overdeveloped because they actually are starting at a young age. Maybe there's a physical development that I see that's probably a bit better based on all the instructional videos that are out there on YouTube or Instagram. There are more videos on how to throw a football now than I ever could have imagined growing up.
And
exactly.
So on.
There's all those. So physically they're developed, but the mental, learning how to study the game, learning the tactics, learning how to watch film, learning how to deal with the emotions of a competitive program, going up against a school rival, failing in front of 70,000 people. I think we're lacking the mental, emotional development. Physically, they may look developed. Mentally, emotionally, they're very underdeveloped. Sometimes their emotional growth is stunted by the fact that everybody is telling them how great they are all the time, or that it's not their fault all the time. You go lose a game, it's not your fault, honey, it's someone else's fault. You know, the team aspect of sports is always about us. Bo Schembechler at Michigan used to say, the team, the team, the team. And that was a great thing for me to learn, because for me, when I got to the pro level, the only way that I could see us winning a championship was a group of men collectively coming together to try to accomplish this great goal. It's really freaking hard to do that. You need everybody invested in the success of the team. So when you have those lessons, that is a very important structure for you to have. You gotta be able to rely on your teammates. You have to be able to rely on your coaches. You have to develop the resilience within you, because as an athlete, as a broadcaster, whatever job you choose in life, you're gonna have to work your way up. And the more you're entitled to something, the less you're actually gonna learn about the reasons why you can become successful.
And how to throw in the wind with Tom Brady.
What do I do with this?
You have an idea.
I was okay with this. Yeah, so what you see it, and I talk about the point of the ball a lot. You see it from, well, I'll start in this angle. This is kind of like a neutral plane. This is when the poise slightly down. When you're throwing into the wind, it has to be neutral. If the point of the ball is up, any wind friction is going to push that ball up over the top. So as a quarterback, you don't really like that U throw underneath, because naturally that's going to point the tip of the ball up. You'd like more of a C, or an inverse, a reverse C. That's how you kind of control the point of the ball, and then you can kind of just snap it off as you throw it. But in these windy conditions, you can't be underneath the ball. There's too much wind surface of the ball to knock it off its path.
I got to tell you, that was a science lesson I didn't know I needed. Well done.
And I mean, I see you throwing the ball in pregame. I haven't thrown this in a couple of years. I mean, I think I got to start warming up like you in pregame.
Well, I'm feeling you'd be okay doing it.
It's only about, I don't know, not 10,000 reps, maybe 10 million reps of throwing footballs over the years.
You're assuming that everybody knows how to develop a quarterback. You're assuming that you're going into a program. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not, there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing when they're tasked with coaching a quarterback or calling an offense. So are you saying, I mean, just like we'd rank
quarterbacks 1 to 32? Do you rank offensive coordinators 1 to 32? Do you rank quarterback coaches 1 to 32? Well, what if you had the 32nd ranked coordinator in someone's mind, or the 32nd ranked quarterback coach? How is he getting a level of development that the guy who's first is getting?
Like an ice skater out there when I see him run routes. He glides. His shoulder plane never dips. It's always the same height. A lot of receivers, when they run, if they're speeding up or stopping, their shoulder planes will rise or fall. He maintains the same shoulder plane when he runs his route. It's really hard for any defensive back to get a beat on what he's doing.
Darnold looking at him again. Some pressure, though. Hit as he throws. Man open. Guess who? Smith and Jigba. Touchdown, Seattle.
When you play the division opponent, there's no fear on either side because there's no intimidation factor because you play each other 2 times a year and you kind of know your matchup. And those are a lot of times the toughest games, division opponents, and they just know you so intimately well. It's not like you can sneak anything by them. So a lot of it will come down to the fundamentals of blocking, tackling, throwing, and the basics. There's a few scheme things that will change, but it's really the game within the game. You know, what can you build on from the previous game? What was successful? What was unsuccessful? And I always used to look back at those games the second time around playing a division opponent and say, all right, what were the few things they did that were successful against us? Okay, we're probably going to get more of those things. And you plan for more of those. Because the one thing that's really hard in football is planning for ghosts. It's hard to go, well, they don't play this coverage, but let's design plays for it in case they do. You can only really game plan for what they do. So if they show it, okay, maybe it's a small percentage, but that percentage may go up, and then you have to plan for it. Like
the quarterback, in many ways, is the CEO of the team, certainly on game day. There's nobody that impacts the game more than the quarterback in NFL football. Now, you have to have the ability and the belief from the entire team, offensively and defensively, that your word means so much. And how you act every day matters to all 3 phases of the game. So I just don't think as a quarterback you go and you punch the clock. I did my job. You know, I threw for 40 touchdowns. Why are we not winning?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing in the offseason to help your defense? What are you doing to push the personnel department to get people doing the right thing? Are you involved in game planning? I mean, I used to do game plans.
Sure.
I used to walk in there and say, these are the things we're doing. Okay, I used to do my own walkthroughs. I used to, all right, guys, I don't give a fuck if the coaches want to come. We're doing our walkthrough.
Right.
We're going to come up with our own signals. We're going to come up with our own, because this is what I need to be on the field to be successful. So that's what Peyton Manning did.
Yeah.
That's what Drew Brees did. That's what Phillip Rivers did. That, to me, is what the great quarterbacks do. So are these other guys going to come in and say, you know what, I know I'm getting paid a lot, and I know that I do a lot, but what can I do more so that we can accomplish more?
When I got to the Patriots, I sat behind Drew, who was a franchise quarterback, right? In my second year, it's training camp, and we had a very good quarterback coach named Dick Rabine, and God rest his soul, unfortunately, he passed away in training camp and of a heart attack. And it was a very difficult loss for our team. And the way that we found a way to continue on that season is Bill Belichick became more of a quarterback coach than we ever imagined him being a quarterback coach. He was obviously a head coach, very involved in defensive game planning, but he decided to come in every week and talk to the quarterbacks about coverage. All right, guys. And he would do these big write-ups, and I still have them all because I kept everything. Tom, this is cover 1. This is how they play it. This is who is responsible for who. Okay, if we line up in a bunch formation, this is how they're going to handle the bunch formation. This is why they do that. This is the weakness of that, why they do that. You shouldn't do this if this is how they cover this. Okay, this is cover 2. This is how they cover. They play 2 variations of cover 2. When they're in this variation, this is what they're trying to stop. When they're in this variation, this is what they're trying to stop. Okay, this is cover 4. This is how this team uniquely plays cover 4. We shouldn't line up in this formation to try to run this concept. For 1 year, for actually more years beyond that, that's how I developed and learned, defense calls a certain play. This is how we can put them in this formation and they can back the coverage off and I'll have a short throw underneath. Oh, great. I love that. Let's do that. Nobody's getting that type of development. So I learned from an offensive standpoint watching Drew and having very good offensive coaches. Then I had a defensive coach, the best one of all time, teach me how to read defenses. Then I would go out and meet with player personnel people.
who are very talented. Okay, we go through the entire defensive lineup. Okay, these are all the things that this defense does. This is what this player does well. This player does well. This player does well. That's development. You're giving people knowledge and information that you could take to the field so that you could play with confidence and anticipation, and that would free you up to play a very aggressive style of football.
Would Tom Brady have finished his career at Michigan if the rules were the same then as they are now?
Yeah, it's such a hypothetical situation, a question to think about. The only thing I can answer is to say that based on what my experience was, I wouldn't want it any other way than the way that I did it. My college experience was very challenging. It was very competitive. The lessons I learned in college that I referred to earlier, and certainly about competition, those traits transformed my life as a professional. I was ready to compete against anybody because the competition in college toughened me up so much that I had a self-belief and self-confidence in myself that whatever I was faced, I could overcome that. And I think if we take that away from a young student athlete to say, you know what, I know it's tough to compete, but what we're gonna do, before you have to compete, we're actually gonna put you somewhere else so that you don't have to compete. That is absolutely the wrong thing to do to a young child. And I would challenge all the coaches and all the parents. They're the ones that have to guide these kids. You can't expect a 17 or 18-year-old to make these great decisions. They're young. They don't have life experience. It should be the parents. Be a good parent. Teach your kid the right values. What's going to sustain them in their careers over a period of time? Whether it's football or whether it's business or whether it's teaching or law school or medical school or a trade, whatever you want to do, you're going to have to go through hard things in your life. You're going to have to make tough choices. And the value isn't always about the last dollar. So I think all these things that are happening in college sports, we're prioritizing the wrong things. We're valuing the wrong things. And I'm not saying it's not important. It's one of 10 things that are important.
Yeah.
And certainly to me, it's not the most important. So when kids do go through that the right way, they're actually learning the right values.
Yeah.
And when you have the right values in life, that's going to sustain you as you move on through the rest of your life.
Every defender was in 6 yards of the line of scrimmage. Now they drop back. Quick throw over the middle, and it's incomplete. Try to get it to Goddard, and it's third down.
Yeah, just another good example. That ball slightly outside of the frame of Goddard, and what would normally seem like a very easy catch. When you have these gloves on, look at it, just right through like a greased pig.
Wow.
I mean, doesn't even really slow it down. I would always try to get my receivers to wear leather gloves, not these plastic gloves that Goddard's got on. I thought that just gave it a little more friction when the ball hit their palms of their hands.
The reality of what happens in practice is it shows up in the game all the time. Bill would actually he called them grease balls, literally. I don't know, some silicone spray that he would spray on the ball. And when we would do running plays, he would put it in practice. I would take this greased football, give it to the back. He would have to tuck the ball, secure it with both hands, the shoulder pads over top, just so they didn't fumble. So that urgency and that point of emphasis always showed up in the games.
What motivates you now?
What motivates me now? I think it's always the same, and it has been for a long time. Like, I don't want to let people down. And I think people that work with me and people that I'm involved with and that I commit to, I always want to feel like I come through and I'm ready to go, and I want to be the best I could be for them. So my Fox team, like, I don't want to be, the broken wheel, so to speak. Like, so I want to come through and I want to work hard and I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day and go, maybe it wasn't the best, but it wasn't because I was not prepared.
Sure.
So
what else did you do throughout the week to improve your mental preparation for a game as a QB and as a broadcaster?
So a lot of it would go film study important, but a lot of it was actually drawing down plays. I was very good at writing things down and seeing spacing on sheets of paper, matching them up with certain coverages, almost like I would draw cards for myself. Visualization worked really well for me on pads of paper and on note cards. And then I would watch the film, and then a lot of the nighttime visualization I would do, certainly before the game, the morning of the game, the day of the game, constantly looking at plays and seeing them play out, seeing the spacing in the defense, and then that allowed me to really anticipate when I got out there on the field.
You know, Tom, I want to ask you communication as a quarterback, right? This is arguably the loudest stadium in the league.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you get across what you want to do when it's so loud in here?
A lot of it is a lot of the communication is in the huddle. Obviously, you can say the play. Maybe you have a check with me. You got to be really clear at the line of scrimmage. The challenge is once you get to the line and the die is cast on the play, there's not much changing, and you need the guys to go forward. There's a little alert, that little sign that Stafford made toward his helmet, and
that gives it to Nakua, who runs outside and then gets hit pretty hard, but keep on going.
And I think part of it is you just can't layer too many things into the offensive operation. The coach has to kind of think about a successful situation. You can go with one or two plays into the huddle, and there's Matthew. Okay, he's getting to the play that he wants, which this is, I would consider them a perfect play offense. They only want to run plays, which is my favorite style offense, that they are pretty sure that they have an offensive advantage.
What if you're a quarterback and you go to a system and they don't teach you coverage? They don't teach you cover one. They don't teach you cover two. They don't teach you cover four. They don't have personnel meetings. They give you an offensive game plan and they go, all right, buddy, here you go. Figure it out. And after Thanksgiving of your second year, they're going, man, this guy just can't play anymore. He stinks. He can't read coverage. It's like, dude, what did you teach him anything? Did you groom him? Did you spend time after practice? Did you work on the physical parts of his game? Did you work on his throwing mechanics? Did you work on his drops? Did you work on the mental parts of the game? Did you understand how to help him study film better? So all these aspects, physical part about football, the physical part is one aspect. I was 199th pick in the draft because so many people were focused on a physical skill. Tom Brady, too weak, couldn't stand in the pocket. If he gets hit, he's going to go down. Lacks a really strong arm. That was kind of. But what I really understood, the mental emotional part, I could bring a consistent competitive winning attitude to the game every day, or to practice and the games every single week. Mentally, I could absorb information. You could give me, just like Belichick did, pages of notes, and I could process those things and then take them to the field and play with the anticipation. So what I lacked for maybe in a bit of physical development, I far exceeded a lot of other people in mental emotional development. And that's a hard thing to evaluate, but I'd also say there's not many people who even know what to do. It's not like they're CEOs of businesses. A lot of times they're football coaches, with all due respect. They're not running large corporations.
Right.
As Bill Parcells said, they're PE coaches a lot of times that get elevated to, coaching positions.
Zone coverage by the Bears defense, and it looks like too deep. But when Byard sinks in, Jalen Johnson needs to take his place in that back half of the field. When he gets nosy with Jaden Reed, then Melton gets behind it. And you look at Love surveying the field, nobody really pressuring him all the time downfield, and he's got a great three ball. That moon ball that I love drops it in from the upper deck, and his receivers run underneath it.
I think what I learned from college was I was always going to be ready to go whenever I got my opportunity. And at that point, I didn't know if I'd be in just to finish the game or the following week or beyond that. Drew was pretty injured, so it took him a while to recover. And at that time, we kind of got on a little bit of a roll. And it ended up being a fairy tale end to the season. So you can never predict how the seasons go. All you could do is try to put as much work into it in advance and prepare as hard as you can every day, because you don't understand when you're going to get your chance. So you always have to be ready for the opportunity to strike.
I always say you control the line of scrimmage, you control the game. So when you control both sides of the line of scrimmage, you have a huge opportunity for success. And it takes someone like Patrick Mahomes to kind of have that Mahomes magic and pull the rabbit out of his hat in order to keep his team in the game. And he's had a lot of unique offensive line combinations, Patrick has. They've been trying to find a left tackle at that position for a long time in that offense. And it's a challenge because it affects the way the quarterback feels like, can I really sit back there and do I trust my teammates up front to be able to protect me long enough so that I could see down the field to read the coverage and then make a very decisive, accurate throw.
All of a sudden, Micah Parsons over here on the right is like, all right, now finally it's my time to rush. Oh no, it's a screen. Now he's out of the play. That's like a breather play for a coordinator and a quarterback. It's like, oh, I don't have to design some killer third down scheme. Let's just throw a slip screen out there. And when they work, man, those feel so good.
One instance where I thought I knew a defense really well was the Super Bowl 55, Bucs Chiefs. I studied for 2 weeks. We played the Chiefs earlier that year. And I kind of saw the trend of how they continued to play. And I just locked in like I'd never had before on film study for those 2 weeks. And I knew the rotation of the safeties so well, Sorensen and Tyrann Mathieu. I had such a good feel for when they were going to blitz, and the ball always came out of my hands really quick. And I always said, like, I knew them better than they knew themselves. And I don't think they understood, you know, and I was a veteran player at the time. So all my film study was so efficient, and it was a huge advantage for us in that game. I remember sending clips to my teammates the morning of the game. I was just filming things on my iPhone of my computer screen and then sending it to my teammates saying, hey, if we get this look, this is what I want you to do. And there was probably like 7 clips. And I think all my teammates were like, this dude is a complete psycho. And that was just, you know, whatever, less than 18 hours before the kickoff of the Super Bowl.
But how about their blocking?
Yeah, incredible. And that's so unsung. Barner there, Saubert there, getting up on the blocks, engaging with their strength. That allows you to run that outside zone scheme. Look at the pride that they take in that. That is just team football. And I always say there's a difference between being a star and a champion. Champions are tight ends that want to block, that want to set the edge. You want to run behind them. Stars are ones that just want the glory position. They want the fantasy points. This team is made up of a bunch of unselfish guys, and maybe one day they'll be champions here.
So Darnold, first year with Seattle. What is the hardest part about that year one journey for a quarterback with a new team?
Well, there's a lot of newness to the year, and there starts the obviously new location, new practice format, new receivers, new offensive line, new line calls, new center, all the things that you kind of take for granted when you have continuity. When I went to Tampa, all those things were totally different. So it's like, how do you chip away at those variables kind of one day at a time? You get familiar with the skill players. That's what I did first. Then you get familiar with the center. I had Ryan Jensen in that offseason. We spent 30 days working on snaps and snap counts. And then when you got to training camp, we worked on, you know, a different variety of plays and so forth. And it's just chipping away. And it took us, you know, 12 games to feel like we were starting to get familiar with the things we were really good at, and also to put aside the things that we weren't good at. So that the time that December came and the end of the playoffs, we started to play our best football. Ultimately, it culminated in a home Super Bowl against the Chiefs where we played our best game of the season.
Yeah.
And I think for Seattle, they're going to need to play 2 games the best they have all year, because to beat the Rams for Seattle is going to be a tall task. This is a game that's both teams are going to have to play their best. You're talking about teams that are in the same weight class. They've proven that in the 2 meetings this year. If you add up points and yards, they've been separated by 1 point and 1 yard, which is pretty phenomenal. That's as tight as it gets. And to be there for round 3, man, it doesn't get any better than that.
So we were going for 16-0, and that actually was one of the best games of the year when we went in 2007 to the Meadowlands to play the Giants in week 17 at that point. And we played our butts off that game just like they did. And it was a great kind of Super Bowl preview, but we felt sharp throughout, and we knew we had the bye week after that. To take an extended period of time off when you have the bye and take the extra week, I do think that's a lot of time off for sure. So again, you don't want to be rusty going into the biggest games of the year against the best teams.
It's like a great tight end I had, a little mini Gronk. Big enough, blocks in the run game, which I really appreciate about these tight ends. Tight ends that just catch passes or end up being glorified slot receivers, but when you stick your face in there and block defensive ends, that's what the tight end position's all about, and the Bears have 2 of them.
Yeah, very much so. And Patrick Mahomes is another great example of someone who's always, humility through incredible success. If you're not humble, this game will humble you. And every time you take the practice field, there's an expectation to perform at a high level. And when you're one of the best to be playing, you are the measuring stick for every team. And they're going to come out there and you're usually going to play their best game against you. Now, that's a positive if you understand that. And then, you know, that's the saying, iron sharpens iron. You're getting someone's best. That means you got to be at your best, which over the long term, that's a great way to continue to develop. But Drake May has that humility. Everything that comes out of his mouth is always about the team. It's always about praising his defense, praising his offensive line. And that's how you connect with people. That's the reality. That's what great leaders do. Great leaders are in service of other people. It's not what can you do for me, it's what can I do for you? How can I be the best to support your dreams, your goals, your vision, whether that's supporting your coach or supporting your offensive lineman, supporting your receivers. True leadership is about humility because true leadership is about service. And how do I show up every day to be the best I can be for my teammates? That really should be the lesson for all quarterbacks in the NFL.
Is there one or two guys, and I would imagine they're older, that you look and you can tell from head movement, you can tell from the directions, that you can tell pre-snap are elite?
Well, Matt Stafford just jumps to the top of my mind. And I'll tell you why. When you see someone do these no-look passes like he did last week, he knows where the defense is going to be aligned. So he knows, okay, he sees a certain coverage. He knows the high-low combination that's going to work against that coverage. So he stares at the low defender, draws the coverage to the low defender, stares at the low defender, and then throws it to the higher receiver in the combination. So that is an elite level of play in his ability to recognize defenses and then make those type of throws.
When did you feel like you mastered the technique of throwing a football? How do you evolve your throwing motion over time?
It was a daily thought in my head. It was a daily action on the practice field. Every time I was brushing my teeth in the morning, I was thinking about, okay, how do I get my hands in a better position? How do I break the ball with my right hand and my left hand to push the ball back? And how do I take a really short stride and torque my body and then still stay really relaxed throughout the course of my delivery? And all these little nuances of mechanics you have to train, because sometimes when you learn when you're young, it's a little wrong. In order to fix it as you get older, it takes a lot of reps to reprogram and rewire your body for a new movement. And I faced that beginning in about 2012 on. So I worked really hard for the early part of my career through college, and then let's say the first 12, 13 years of my career. And then I would say basically modified my throwing mechanics a little bit to become a bit more rotational with my throwing and still maintaining my accuracy and my power. But again, it was a lot of reps, thousands and thousands and thousands of reps it took for me to make just the smallest bits of change. And I was very fortunate to be supported by some great people in that process.
How do you prepare these quarterbacks for playoff football? You put pressure on them every single week to be their best. And you don't wait for the playoffs to go, all right, guys, well, now it's playoffs, let's do something different. You've been preparing them all offseason since April so that they can be at their best when it matters the most for their team. So I just felt like the pressure to succeed on a daily basis in great organizations and to not let your teammates down prepared you for the biggest moments of the season when everybody's watching. And that's when you need to play your best. The margin of error is the smallest because you're playing the best teams. So you need to be at your best. And the only way to be at your best on these days is to think about over the course of the entire offseason, you need to be at your best every day. And that's the reality of professional sports. That's what the great athletes do. That's what the great quarterbacks do. Constantly putting pressure on themselves to succeed regardless of the moment. And that prepares you for these big moments that they're about to face this weekend.
Beating them pretty good. Get to the fourth quarter of the game. I think we called a timeout on second down to discuss what was going to be on third down because it was third and long. So I ran over to Coach Belichick and I said, and we've always worked on quick kick. And one of the cool traditions I had as a quarterback over many years of playing was on Friday after practice, all the quarterbacks and our quarterback coach had a punting competition. And you would punt from the 50-yard line and you would try to put it as close to the goal line as possible without going in or without going out of bounds. And we kept a running tab all year of who would end up winning. So we were always punting. And over the course of the weeks, we'd practice the quick kick too. So finally, we get to the game. We haven't used quick kick all year. It's third and long. On the second down play, I ran over and I said, Coach, what about the quick kick to Bill? And he goes, great, let's do it. I was thinking we were going to do the quick kick on 4th down because we're on the 50-yard line. I want to try to be like, oh, we're disguising it. He called the quick kick on 3rd down, which is kind of what the theory of that is. So you want a quick kick when the defense, you're already backed up, it's 3rd and long, you don't think you're going to get it, you're going to surprise the defense by punting it. You can punt it over the top of the safety's head, and then that ball will roll down, hopefully inside the 10-yard line. So we called it on 3rd down. I ended up kicking it. It wasn't my best kick. I think it was, decent. But the best part about it was Broncos weren't very happy after that. In fact, there was a fight that ensued on the sideline, on our sideline after that. All the linemen in there. Of course, Ryan Wendell, who's now the line coach for the Rams, one of the scrappiest, toughest guys I've ever been around. He's instigating the fight on our sideline. It's always good, by the way, any NFL player. If you're going to get in a fight, do it on your sideline, not the opponent's sideline. So Wendy's involved. Logan Mankins is involved. It was an absolute melee on the sideline, and I was just sitting back watching it all.